Elaine Mercer bought the house 3 weeks after her 63rd birthday and told almost nobody until the paperwork was done. Not because she wanted secrecy, because she'd spent most of her life watching people treat good news like communal property. The mansion sat outside Asheville on a quiet rise overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains. Pale limestone, black-framed windows, long terraces that caught the evening light like water. The realtor kept calling it a legacy home. Elaine hated that phrase immediately. She hadn't bought it for legacy. She bought it because for the first time in decades, there was no one left to consult. Her divorce had finalized 4 years earlier with very little drama. Her ex-husband had moved to Arizona with a woman who wore linen year-round and taught meditation retreats. Her daughter lived in Seattle. Her son Daniel stayed closer, though close had become a complicated word over the years. Daniel called often. His wife Brooke rarely did. Elaine never disliked Brooke outright. That would have been easier. Brooke was polished, socially graceful, and very good at sounding warm without revealing anything real. She missed birthdays but posted elaborate Mother's Day tributes online. She declined invitations, then acted wounded when people stopped asking. Still, Elaine tried. So, when the house was ready, she hosted a small housewarming party. Nothing extravagant. A catered dinner, wine on the terrace, soft jazz drifting through hidden speakers she still hadn't figured out how to control. Neighbors came. Former co-workers came. Daniel came carrying a bottle of bourbon and looking genuinely excited for her. Brooke texted 40 minutes before dinner. Something came up. Sorry. Rain check. No explanation. Elaine read the message twice, locked her phone, and continued arranging appetizer plates beside the kitchen island. She refused to let herself care. But later that night, while people wandered through the house admiring the view and asking about renovation details, she noticed Daniel standing alone near the fire pit scrolling silently through his phone. A visible absence can change the emotional temperature of a room. The next morning, photos spread through the family group chat. The library with its floor-to-ceiling shelves, the terrace lit by lanterns, Elaine smiling in a navy silk blouse she'd almost returned because it felt too expensive for someone her age. Brooke responded within minutes. "Oh my God, this place is insane." Then another message. "We're definitely claiming one of those guest rooms for holidays." Elaine stared at the screen longer than she meant to. That afternoon, Daniel stopped by unexpectedly. He stood in the kitchen while Elaine sliced pears at the counter. "Brooke thinks maybe we should have a key," he said carefully. Elaine kept slicing. "A key to what?" "The house." She set the knife down. "For emergencies?" Daniel hesitated. "I think she just means family access." There it was. The phrase people used when they wanted ownership without responsibility. Elaine rinsed her hands slowly. She skipped the housewarming. She was busy. Everyone's busy. Daniel sighed softly, already tired before the argument had properly begun. The strange thing was that Brooke never asked Elaine directly. She simply began speaking as though it were already decided. During phone calls, she referred to the upstairs guest suite as our room. She mentioned future Christmases there, told friends they'd basically have a mountain property now, too. Elaine heard these things secondhand. Each one landed quietly. That was the part that unsettled her most. Not cruelty, assumption. A month later, Elaine hired an estate manager named Victor after several neighbors recommended additional property oversight. The house sat far enough outside town that deliveries, contractors, and maintenance had become difficult to coordinate alone. Victor was calm, formal, and impossible to intimidate. 2 weeks after he started, Elaine drove into Asheville with an interior designer to review fabrics for the upstairs bedrooms. When she returned home, Victor met her near the front entry. "There was a misunderstanding earlier today," he said evenly. Elaine waited. Mrs. Holloway arrived with guests requesting access to tour the property. Elaine blinked once. "Brooke came here?" "Yes, ma'am. I informed her that visitor authorization requires your approval." A long silence followed. "And?" She appeared unhappy. Elaine almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because the entire thing felt suddenly embarrassing in a way she hadn't expected, not angering. Clarifying. That evening Daniel called. "She thinks you humiliated her." Elaine sat alone in the library while dusk settled against the windows. The staff humiliated her. "You know what I mean." "No," Elaine said quietly. "I don't think I do anymore." Daniel exhaled hard. She thought family didn't need permission. Elaine looked around the room she had paid for herself after 40 years of work, after surviving illness, after rebuilding a life she never imagined having alone. Then she answered carefully, "Your wife arrived at my home with guests after ignoring my invitation to celebrate it. She wanted access before she wanted relationship." Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, Daniel said, smaller this time, "I think somewhere along the way we all started treating your generosity like infrastructure." That sentence stayed with her. Weeks later, Daniel visited alone. They drank coffee on the terrace in near silence. "I should handled it sooner," he admitted. Elaine nodded once, not victorious, just tired. Brooke eventually came to dinner in early autumn. She brought flowers, complimented the renovations, asked polite questions about the landscaping. She never mentioned the key again. And when the evening ended, Elaine walked them both to the front door, hugged her son, thanked Brooke for coming, and locked the house gently behind them. Not out of spite, just because it was finally hers.